Hello lovely people of the internet and welcome to today's video. Today I'm sharing with you my April setup in my bullet journal, and as always before we get into the actual setup I'm going to flip through the previous month to show you all how these spreads ended up turning out. So for the month of March I didn't reach for my bullet journal as much as I should have, which is why a lot of the spreads seem very empty and bare, and they just didn't receive as much love as they should have gotten. I, for some reason, just didn't reach for my bullet journal as much. I was going through some sort of like planning funk. I just wasn't really efficient with my planning systems and all of that. So anyways, I'm hoping for a better month in April, and since it is our new fresh month and a fresh start, hopefully it will all go a lot more better in terms of planning. Anyways, so on to April. Because I'm stubborn and refuse to give up on watercolors, I still wanted to use watercolors again for April, and I decided to dedicate a page in the back of my journal to playing around with the watercolors and just figuring out the ratio of water and pigment so the paint wouldn't bleed through to the other side of the page like it had done in March. So after I figured that out, I began painting my cover page for April, and I'm sure you can probably tell I am doing a mountainscape for my April theme, and I will be doing pretty much this mountain theme of this design that is on the cover page for the rest of the spreads in the setup as well. So I decided to slow the footage a little bit for the cover page portion, so you guys could see exactly what I'm doing, and afterwards when I start inking you can see sort of the types of lines I'm creating and all of that. And that is pretty much what I did for the rest of the setup too, so it is pretty much the same thing. I just really like the way that it tied everything together. But before I get into that sort of process, because that is like further down the line, for my mountains I did a pre-sketch just to save some time, and then I went in with blues, purples, and a little bit of pink because I wanted that to be my color scheme for April. I also made little like forests in the mountains, and I decided to draw in a moon. For some reason I've been really drawn to moons lately, and I noticed that I somehow incorporate one into almost every spread that I've done so far. And then I did a few sort of circles and stars in the sky area, and then if you remember my November bullet journal setup from last year, I had this sort of wind effect in that setup because it was a fantasy theme, and I wanted to incorporate that into this setup as well because I thought it would add to the whimsical effect of the color scheme. So that is what I decided to do. And then to define the mountains, I used my Muji Gel Pen in the 0.25, and this has become my new favorite pen for like everything, and the pen is fine enough to give me the details that I wanted. So what I did was do the initial outline of the mountain. When you're doing it, it looks more realistic when you give it a bit more like raggedy edges and sharp edges and all of that. And then to show the sort of rocky texture of the mountain, I went with something that is similar to cross-hatching, but not quite like cross-hatching. I'm hoping you can sort of see what I mean, but it's sort of just like line shading, and I did this on the sort of slope part of the mountain where it would just sort of go down to create some dimension and some texture. I zoomed in a little bit so you guys could see exactly what I mean, because I'm not the greatest at explaining things and all of that. So I basically did this for all of the mountains with the gel pen, and I really like the effect of it. I'm really happy with these mountains, and I love this cover page in general. I think this is, from this bullet journal, my favorite setup so far, which I haven't done that many setups, but like, so far it is my favorite. I don't know if I already mentioned this, but the watercolors I'm using are the Shin Professional watercolors, and I picked up the tubed version in the 30-piece set, and so far I've been really enjoying them. They have been a lot of fun to use, and I figured it was time for a little upgrade from my previous set, so I've been enjoying them. And I think it's because of the fact that I recently got them, so I've been playing around with watercolors more, that it made me a lot more confident in doing the spread for April and using watercolors in my bullet journal for April, because I was getting more familiar with watercolors and knowing the limits and all of that sort of stuff with my paper, which is something you sort of figure out as you keep using it and experimenting and all of that fun stuff. So the final thing I'm doing on my cover page is the title, which I was struggling with, but I decided in the end to cover up my mistakes with a piece of A4 like printer paper, and I just hand lettered in April. And one of the cool things you can do with the Tombow brush pens is make a ombre effect with them if you touch the tips of two markers together. So that is what I decided to do, and that is what my cover page looks like. I'm very happy with how it ended up turning out and everything. So we will now move on to the next spread, which is my calendar overview, and this is basically the same thing as I did in the previous 2 months, I believe, except of course the structural fact of the like boxes change depending on the month and how many days it has and all of that sort of stuff. But I don't really have much to say because it is basically the same. But one of the cool things was, because of the way that the boxes ended up lining up, I got this little space right up at the top to make a little mountain scape. So I decided to put the mountains into that little spot, and it ended up looking so cute. So again, like I mentioned previously, I am doing the same type of mountain design with the little forest and the colors all throughout the spread to tie all of the pages I create together so it all looks cohesive. I was debating whether to try a different style of mountains, but I decided just to go with this. It was simple and it was easy, and it would make everything go together. I also, of course, stuffed up with my title for this one. I'm not used to brush lettering, so whenever I attempt to go small, it ends up going big, and I haven't really learned how to brush letter on a smaller scale, so I just went with it. I decided it was pretty decent anyways. And then the final thing I just did here was washi tape the first half of the month, because I am taking a trip with my family to Singapore, Malaysia and Thailand, and because of that I just wanted to mark out those days in the overview while I was still planning and in the flow of setting up my bullet journal. So that is what I decided to do. The washi tape I used is from Simply Gilded, and it is the Lavender and Gold one. So yeah, anyways, on to the next set of pages. For this one I did a mountainscape along the bottom, but I decided to incorporate more forest into this one just to make it a little bit more different from the other mountainscapes. And one page will be for journaling, and then the other page will be my brain dump. And for my brain dump, I've been debating on what to call this page, and I've decided to go with Little Gems. I feel like it's a really cute name, and it goes with multiple spreads and multiple themes, so I just decided to go with that. And for journaling, I decided to just keep it to one page because I will be traveling for the first half of the month, and I don't know how much space I will actually end up needing, so I'm just going to go with the flow for that. And one of the other things I wanted to do, because I was really curious about it, was just define one page and then see what the difference was like leaving the other page undefined. For the time being, of course, I went in and did the same sort of rendering for the other one, but it was really cool seeing the difference between what it looks like with the line work versus without it. And then the last two pages I will be doing after this is my habit tracker and my quote page, which is the same situation as the last month, with a few little differences. I just decided to scrap the key section at the bottom. I wasn't using it. I already by this point know my system, so I thought it was time to get rid of it. And then the other side is the quote page. But there was one thing I wanted to quickly mention before I forget, which is the lighting situation. I've been struggling with the lighting in the last few videos, which I'm pretty sure it's because I use artificial lighting. If I could use natural lighting, I totally would, but my bedroom is located in the very corner where there's no sunlight that comes directly into my room, so I don't have a good filming space for me to be able to film in the daylight, unfortunately. And I of course could go into a different part of my house, but it's a little bit unpractical and all of that sort of stuff, so unfortunately I just have to deal with it. But I am figuring out the exposure levels and just tweaking it a little bit, so I'm hoping by the next video it will be like good. But the only sort of difficulty I'm having right now is getting the temperature of the footage right. Some of the clips I have here are really, really warm, as you can see, and then others are really, really cool. So I'm hoping to have it figured out by the next video. So I apologize if it's a little bit annoying. I know I find it frustrating, but yeah, I apologize for the lighting. I'm working on it, I promise. So that aside, the very last thing I am making is the quote page. For this one, I just decided to do a circle drawing with the mountains and the moon, similar to what I did in the cover page, but a little bit more simplified. By this point, I was getting a little bit tired, so I just wanted to keep it more simple and everything, so I went with that. And then I'm going to outline everything like I did previously as well. And the quote that I decided to go with is, "The biggest adventure you can take is to live the life of your dreams," which is, I believe, by Oprah Winfrey. I just need a little bit of motivation recently, so I wanted to have something that was related to mountains, because, you know, I want my quotes to somewhat match the theme that I'm doing. But I also just needed a little bit of extra motivation recently, so I thought this would be a good quote to go with. So yeah, that is pretty much everything. So this is the final flip through of the spread. I'm really happy with how everything ended up coming out, and I decided to skip out on my weeklies for this setup. I'm not too sure exactly what I'm going to need once I get back from my holiday with my family, so I just left it for now, and I'll end up doing something once I'm back and ready to start planning for April. But yeah, I will leave a link or a list of the materials I've used in the description box like I always do, and let me know what you guys are doing for April. Anyways, I hope you all have a wonderful day or night, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!